some of the aides to persons who are invited to make clarifications. I think that it's not as if you have. Look, let's even say. Let's even say. Look, it's there in the Constitution. If an authorized person attends the sitting of an assembly, national or state assembly, it does not invalidate the proceedings of the assembly on that occasion.
But too many cooks may be spoiling the broth. What are they doing?
It gives room for information leakages.
Yeah, it could actually be a security threat. Exactly. You don't know what intention men carry.
Exactly.
That's why I said it's the business of the security persons to screen out those who are not supposed to be there. But I hope we're not glossing over this very serious issue. I don't know how it came about. It's tucked in somewhere. Page 13 of Vanguard says 50 decomposing and 20 headless bodies uncovered around Lopanta cattle market. That's in Abia State. Decomposing means that these were fresh. These were persons who died.
I saw 70 somewhere.
Who were killed recently.
Yes,
it's on page 13 of Vanguard.
Yes.
And 20 headless bodies.
Yes.
I don't know what's. This is a huge national embarrassment. It's a big security issue. I would think that the security agency should get around this. 50 decomposing, that's to say freshly killed.
You know, Kingsley, what beats me hollow is how we allow some private thinking to creep into things that affect our national life. So I'm happy about one thing. The security agencies have been able to talk to people from a part of this country. They actually mentioned people that this is not about anybody who's chanting anybody. We do not want a situation where it will seem that criminality is being encouraged because we're insisting on a certain pattern of behavior. So I'm grateful to Providence that they are reaching a consensus about fighting crime.
That's right.
Well, just 30 seconds for this one. Sex for Mark. ICPC charges suspended Unical Prof.
That's a very good one.
Yes, it says, and this follows investigation by the Anti-Graft Commission into the Don's alleged gross misconduct against some of his students.
What is his name? Infidons. What's the name again? Yes.
Ndifong.
Thank you.
Ndifong, suspended Ndifong. And
he was the Dean of Law at the University of Calabar.
Yes, so this just to say that the ICPC, you know, has formally charged, you know, of course, him to court. Yes, and I thought that I know when the former Minister of Women Affairs, you know, Dame Pauline Talen, you know, this is an issue she would have, you know, been up and doing, you know. So I only hope that the Women Affairs Ministry will take this up, because there's supposed to be a register. There's supposed to be a register where, well, he has not been found guilty.
Exactly. Yet. Nobody's convicted.
Yes, nobody's yet.
If it's been charged,
yes,
so the matter is sub judice.
Exactly.
So
my happiness is that.
Thank you.
My happiness is that somebody has said, "Come and answer for this."
Precisely.
Okay. Kingsley, thank you.
That's the way to go.
Yes. And
Chukwudi Okolie-Obaja, thanks you very much for being around today.
Thank you.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll get ahead with our items for discussion this morning.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Those who desire to upskill their skills and remain relevant in their organization can fulfill their desire through the following training programs specially packaged by NTA Television College, JOS. Audio Engineering, Operation and Maintenance. Date 3rd October to 13th October 2023. 2 weeks. Photojournalism and Photography. Date 16th October to 3rd November 2023, 3 weeks. Advanced Broadcast Accounting and Auditing. Date 6th November to 17th November 2023, 2 weeks. Television Graphics Design and Presentation. Date 6th November to 24th November 2023, 3 weeks. Managing the Boss. Date 27th November to 1st December 2023, 1 week. Advanced Protocol, Event Management and Public Relations. Date 27th November to 8th December 2023, 2 weeks. Parliamentary Reporting and Management. Date 27th November to 8th December 2023, 2 weeks. The course fee for the 3-week course is 150,000 naira per participant. The fee for the 2-week course is 120,000 naira, while the course fee for the 1-week course is 100,000 naira only, accommodation inclusive. The venue for all courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA Television College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For more inquiries, please call 0803 079 5335 or 0806 980 9807. NTA Television College, Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
The court has demonstrated in this visible commitment to rule of law and humanity, and their commitment to do justice for all Nigerians, regardless of ethnic, religious, or any other biases. So we use the strength of our diversity to build a stronger and prosperous Nigeria, and that's my belief.
Welcome back. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and it's reaching you live on the network service of the NTA, Africa's largest TV network. Now let's talk about police security and police security conference and retreat. We have a backgrounder from our correspondent Francis Fong.
The role of the police.
It is a gathering of strategic security managers of the Nigeria Police Force, a platform for the force leadership to critically assess the security situation in the country with a view to adequately confronting the array of challenges in the internal security space. President Bola Tinubu, in a message delivered by the Minister of Police Affairs, Ibrahim Gaidam, spoke on the reforms in the force and assured that his administration will review the allowances, wages and living conditions of police officers and men and the provision of more firepower to enhance police efficiency in their battle against criminals.
As we prepare a new national security strategy, I assure you that we will push through significant reforms in the police in order to make the post better positioned to perform its mandate. There must be behavioral change in our officers. The welfare of all security personnel shall continue to be our priority.
Let me assure you that the government of Imo State will continue to assist security agencies, including the police, in the discharge of their constitutional duties.
Nigeria has played a vital role in several Interpol operations and initiatives over the years, demonstrating its commitment to tackling transnational crimes.
Minister of State Police Affairs, National Security Advisor in a message, Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa, and the Inspector General of Police Kayode Igbetokun acknowledged the fact that professionalism, competence, rule of law, and citizens-friendly police force will support the agenda of government in fostering economic recovery and growth, as well as social integration and political development of Nigeria.
Community engagement is crucial in bridging the gap between police and the public. We must strive and build trust, foster positive relationships, and actively involve local communities in our efforts to fight crime.
It is therefore our collective responsibility as security agencies of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to create an atmosphere of tranquility where businesses can flourish and individuals can pursue their aspirations without any inhibition.
Nigerian police will continue to play a more unifying role to enhance stability by mobilizing personnel and material resources at our disposal for the adequate management of security and maintenance of public order and safety.
The conference with the theme, Fostering Economic Prosperity, Social Integration, and Political Development through Enhanced Internal Security Mechanism, the first under acting IGP Kayode Igbetokun.
Francis Former, our correspondent, they're giving us a background report to our conversation. Let me quickly introduce our guest. Dr. Kabiru Adamu is a security and risk management expert. He joins us live here in the studio. Dr. Adamu, always a pleasure to have you when we have especially issues surrounding security.
A pleasure is mine.
We will also be joining Professor Etani B. Alemeka, who is a professor of criminology. He will be joining us via Zoom from Owerri, the Imo State capital. Professor Alemeka, it's good to see you. It's been quite a while.
Yes, thanks so much. I think it's been a time that we all need to take stock.
All right. We'll also be joining our correspondent, Loretta Arinze Egwim, who is, of course, our correspondent from Owerri in a short while. Loretta, thank you for joining us. Loretta, can you hear us? Okay, we'll be joining Loretta, who is our correspondent from Owerri in a short while. Kinsley.
All right, Claire, thank you very much. Let's begin with Professor Alemeka, who is, as it were, in situ at the venue of the police retreat. Professor Alemeka, just by way of launching your intervention, what is the utility of a retreat of this nature? 4 consecutive years they've had the retreats, but tell us, why such a retreat?
Well, I think from the point of the police, it affords them an opportunity once in a year to bring together their strategic leaders so that they choose a particular theme relevant to policing, and they can all brainstorm, reach some resolution, which also will feature in the subsequent year activities. So usually a topical issue is taken, and then of course there's brainstorming, and hopefully it informs how they respond to it. So if you note, the 4 sessions that series that have been conducted had been towards the end of the year, usually late in the year. So I think from the point of view of the organizers, the police, is a strategic way of coming together, sharing opinions, sharing ideas, and identify challenges that they are confronted with, and then, of course, devise some common solution to address the problem. Last year, one was also in Imo, while election was being anticipated, and it focused particularly on what police need to do to ensure that they perform their role very creditably in elections. So election is over, a new government is in place, and in the midst of the security challenges, in the midst of deficit in capacity, they are looking at how they can upscale their capacity in order to address some of the challenging issues like of economic underdevelopment, disunity across the country, and of course political challenges, especially in the light of the controversies and contestation about the last election. So I think it's a useful way for them to come together at that level.
So Professor Alemeka, for you, as a professor of criminology, what will be the high points now of this retreat? And what about it that, should excite the public?
Yes, yesterday was the opening ceremony. So as you said, as you play out in your opening, many people came to give good messages. I think the minister for police affairs that gave the president address also stated some direction for the police, what the government intends to do. But I think for me, the important thing is that the police is beginning to look beyond law enforcement, simply, beyond public order. and begin to understand the significance of policing for the entire society, for economic development, for national unity, and for political development. I think it's this broad understanding that I think is very significant in the topic that they have chosen, to see that policing is not simply stopping an arrest, but it is, in fact, a necessary condition for economic development. It's a necessary, sufficient condition for political development. And of course, it does play a role in national unity. Where you find a repressive police, and of course, if that repression is even tainted by some ethnic or religious connotation, for which we're lucky in Nigeria, unlike many other countries, national disunity will actually be aggravated. So I think taking on the broader issue might begin to help them appreciate the responsibility that they have under the Constitution and in their day-to-day activities. For example, if police realize that their activity has consequence for economic development, we do hope on market days in many rural communities, they will not obstruct free, in carrying out law enforcement, they will not allow it to obstruct free movement to the market. And I think if they begin to realize some of these connections, I think it's better for all of us.
All right, Professor Olamika, thank you very much. We'll come back to you in the course of the conversation. Now back to the studios, Dr. Kabir Adamo. In terms of thematic choice and therefore relevance, Professor Olamika has tried to dimension it to say that, look, the police now is focusing on the significance of policing and therefore consequences of actions or inactions and the ripple effect that this has. Is this a new thinking that, and therefore, of course, one would say that it is welcome, or many would say that it is welcome. Why now?
It's quite interesting and phenomenal. I think the timing of the retreat, and just like Professor has mentioned, we have a new government, and the new government has stated clearly that it has the intention of improving policing. If you pick the Renewed Hope agenda, one of the items in that Renewed Hope agenda is improving policing. And I'm quite glad to note that the Acting Inspector General of Police has taken the bull by the horn, as it were, to advance this desire to improve policing. An exemplification of that is this retreat. The fact that he has gathered strategic leaders, both national and international, who have come together to discuss policing from quote-unquote a new paradigm. And I think this is, for me, the value of such a gathering. The fact that modern methods of policing would be tabled, the fact that the peculiarities that exist within Nigeria would also be contemplated. One of the things that the Acting Inspector General of Police has mooted is the desire to embrace technology in policing. So as an example, he's spoken about enhancing intelligence through adoption of technological means for the collection of intelligence. I'm hoping that these are some of the discussions that will be had during the retreat. We're in an era, as an example, of AI. How will that play into the policing strategy that we've adopted at the moment? Criminals can sit down, use AI to come up with strategies, as it were, to operate. Now, if you use your brain, as it were, to attempt to prevent that type of strategy, it's not likely that you will be able to succeed. So is police thinking along that direction? How is it going to counter that? So those are the kind of things that I'm hoping that I'll hear from that. Another thing that has come out based on a statement by the Acting Inspector General of Police at the retreat yesterday was the desire to create a new unit that would counter advanced criminal activities, as it were. So again, it tells you foresight. He's already looking ahead. Of course, SARS was dismantled. We all know the reason why. But then there is a vacuum that has been created. We need a tactical unit that would address some of these criminal activities in the country. So he's already thinking along that line. I also know, as an example, that the new government has indicated the desire to recruit about 30,000 new police personnel over a period of 4 years. We are aware of what prevented that recruitment in the past. Perhaps this is another avenue to also discuss that. So to answer your question directly, it may not be a new strategy, but it's an opportunity to address modern challenges within the policing system vis-a-vis the peculiarities that exist within Nigeria.
Thank you, Dr. Adamu. Let me return to Professor Alemeka from Owerri. Just as a follow-up to what Dr. Adamu has just said, if we consider the consequences of policing in recent times, we will be thinking about issues like alleged gross abuse of human rights, extortion, harassment, intimidation, corruption, and all that. Is there anything in the IGP's speech that give us an understanding of a new strategy, as Dr. Adamu, earlier, suggested?
Yeah, I think one of the topics to be discussed, as Dr. Kabir said, that he hopes that the discussion will also impact on the police, is there is actually a topic on reorientation of the police. So there is a promise of establishing a program for constant reorientation of the police. And the IG did say yesterday that the conception and the document is also being finalized to reorient police. And I think this is a very strategic way of building trust between the public, because some of the inadequacies between in the work of the police and in the relation between police and the public have caused a lot of distrust. So if there is a reorientation and the program is well implemented, we will be seeing a joint policing, more or less, between the public and the police, and that would be the most effective way of policing the environment, because there wouldn't be antagonism between those who have former law enforcement responsibilities and members of the public that they serve. And like Dr. Kabir also said, another topic will also be looking at, technology. And technology, of course, it does enhance capacity to police, just as it also enhances the capacity of the criminals to commit their crime. So it's a very tricky area in which police or law enforcement agency or security broadly must be very choosy in the kind of technology that they use. They must be up to date in the kind of technology available to the criminals. Another topic that I think is critical is they're also looking at their own internal working environment. For example, they have topics on their scheme of service, to discuss the scheme of service as well as the pension provision. The whole service or any employment is through the entry flow right through to the exit, and many officers encounter problem after discharge or after retirement in accessing their pension, and all these affect motivation during service. So I think the topics they have taken, there are those that are very strategic, like reorientation of the police, and there are those that are very organizationally important, like pension and scheme of service. And of course, there are those that are related directly to efficiency. And efficiency is also a mechanism for building trust. So with the use of technology, definitely appropriately, it will improve performance and improve their intelligence capacity, and therefore be able to prevent rather than simply being a reactive policing agency. So the topics, I think they do address contemporary anxieties, and then they have the potential for taking police to the next level. Just what we hope is that there will be persistent consistency in addressing some of these issues, because it's not just hit and run that will make a difference. It's things like technology, for example, require it to be entrenched as part of the mechanism of policing, and a policy internal policy ought to emerge as they grow, because in the past we all are aware police buy walkie-talkies, which are not consistent with one another, and in the end, they are not efficiently used. So I think that there should be a policy. I think there should be wide consultation beyond the police in terms of competence with security expert, technology expert, ICT expert, so that they have a good policy, both for acquisition and use. So I think the topics are very significant.
Professor Alemika, thank you very much. I'll come back to you shortly with respect to some of the issues that you have itemized as matters that will be engaging the attention of the officers at the retreat. But earlier we introduced our correspondent, Loretta, who is in Owerri. Loretta, tell our viewers, what is the mood like at the retreat? Loretta, there's some distortion there in our reception of your image and audio from Owerri. Let's get our engineers to try to clear that up, and then we'll come back to you. Professor Alemika, in addition to the topics that you have itemized, I'm just concerned, and I'm sure a number of our viewers also will be concerned about this. You have the top brass, as it were, having this retreat. Is there some efficiency in percolating down the ladder, the chain of command, to the officers and men that ordinary citizens encounter on a daily basis? In other words, how do you cascade the ideas that you get from retreats of this nature, conclusions at retreats of this nature, down to the men and officers? Because this is the fourth in a row, and some persons will tell you that there are still issues.
Yes, Kingsley, in terms of structure, they have a good structure that can deliver. I think what is important is the will, determination to use that structure. For example, this retreat is taking place. All commissioners of police are in attendance. All zonal AIGs are in attendance. So we can see a situation where if they want to use their structure, the police commissioner meets with the area commanders at least once a week, or even in the most difficult situation, at least once a month. So they can actually use with the area commanders that the next meeting we are going to have will be briefing on what transpired at this conference. And if they do that successfully, then the area commander can go back. They also, along with the DPO, meet at least with their officers at least once a week. Again, but let's say in order to prepare effectively for it, they will do this once a month. They can also go back and canvass some of the issues that have been addressed at these workshops. So in terms of structure, there are actually meeting points that are regular that can be used. But I think it's first to have the directive, and then beyond the directive, to have a monitoring mechanism that indeed commissioners do that with their area commanders and DPOs, and the DPOs also, who meet regularly, again, at least once a week with their staff, can also bring this one to bear. So I think it's a question of using existing structure, which I think for me is adequate. But most important to ensure compliance is to have a monitoring mechanism for oversight.
All right, Prof, thank you. Again, we'll just keep you on hold and return to the studio here to take Dr. Kabiru Adamu. And my question, Dr. Adamu, will be on the IGP's announcement of the new Special Intervention Squad, as you also noted. I mean, the social media yesterday was inundated, with that. It would appear that appeared to be the high point, of the IGP's speech. And I'm asking, I will ask, one, the relevance of that, and the timing of that and the need for that, considering the fact that, as Prof said, the conference and retreat is taking a new dimension in the sense that it is now looking at the consequences of policing as well as connecting our economy and policing. So the question will be, what would be the relevance of the Special Intervention Squad?
On a lighter note, I think what took the attention of social media was not necessarily this announcement, but something else, and I'll allow you to digest that later. We're faced with different high-level criminal activities, organized crime, and there's actually an index that looks at all countries of the world and places them according to ranking on the level of organized crime in them. Sadly, Nigeria is not faring very well. I think, if I remember well, the last time I checked, we were about either 7 point something or 8 point something, where 1 is low and then 10 is high. And so organized criminal activities have a root in Nigeria, and conventional policing cannot deal with organized crimes, especially where you have actors that in some instances are equipped with military-grade weaponry. And in terms of the invention and the types of crime they come with, they also use technology that is not available to an everyday person. So that requires a special unit of the police, both in terms of identifying the threat, analyzing the threat, and then addressing it. And I mean, one of the key points that Professor mentioned is the need for the police to be preventative in their approach. So you need such a special tactical squad that is able to meet the challenges of modern day policing demands. And I want to emphasize that at the moment, we do not have any unit within the police that have that capability. If you look at the conventional police, they have their role. The mobile police, they have their role. The role that used to be played by tactical policing units such as SAS, which no longer exists, sadly, there's a vacuum there. So this SIS, it's absolutely important that we have such a unit. But, and I think that is what worries most of us, including the viral comment that you saw on social media. What has been put in place to prevent what happened during the SARS? I would also want to ride on what Professor mentioned earlier on, to say that the immediate past IG and this current one have moved ahead to create what they call, I think, a police complaint unit. And not too long ago, I think about a week ago or thereabout, Nigeria actually sought the assistance of the UN, and a bilateral agreement was signed into where the UN will support the capacity and capability of this PCU, police complaints unit. I think the idea...
sorry, I don't want to take you off your thoughts trajectory. I'm just wondering, when you said this is needed, in terms of in content and quality, how will this squad be different from the squad of SARS, the squad of the special weapons, tactical, whatever? And we have quite a number of special intervention units within the police force itself, all charged with similar responsibilities, and yet we're still having the same, if not, more criminal cases here and there.
I think the solution to that is simple, and I love what Professor mentioned, a performance measurement capacity within the police is required. We need to be able to determine, for instance, if you create that unit, what is the mandate of that unit? Is it to address kidnap for ransom? Is it to address cyber security? What, at the time it was created, what is, in terms of metrics, what is metrics telling us? How many cases of such incidents are being recorded? Over a period of, let's say, 6 months or 1 year, how have they been able to reduce that? At the moment, I'm not so comfortable with the performance measurement mechanisms within the policing system, and perhaps a hint to the professor who is on ground. This is something that I think that strategic meeting needs to address. They need to have that capacity for measuring performance within the system. But more importantly, we have a parliament, and there are committees within the parliament. The whole idea of our democratic structure is where the executive is not able to, the parliament should be able to. So where, for instance, that doesn't happen, I'm hoping that the parliament that will be listening to this should have that capacity within themselves. So the idea is required, but it must be measured.
Okay. Dr. Kabir, thank you very much. Professor Lemika, there are some views that have expressed some worries, if not concerns, about the new special squad that the Acting Inspector General of Police announced in Owerri. And of course, those concerns pertain to likely abuse going forward. But I'm just wondering, Prof, is this now an acknowledgement to say that the mobile police unit, as we once knew it, is dead? What was the whole idea of having a police mobile force or a police mobile unit? Have we now reduced them to providing security for VIPs, politically exposed persons, and subsidizing security for other persons who can afford it?
Thank you, Kingsley. I think Gabriel had mentioned something which we need to put in focus. He talks about gaps in our even policing architecture. If you recall, the role that mobile police were supposed to play, and which relatively was well played until probably the 1990s, was distinct from the regular police. And in the law that created it actually anticipated deployment of 3 years and 2 times, renewable only once because of the nature of the job. I think what needs to be done is in all this multiplicity of units within the police, there is need for them to actually sit down and coordinate it very well in terms of using some kind of organogram. What should be done? What is going to be done by this? Because I can see that there is a tendency in the police to create a unit when there's a problem without relating it to the existing structure. So there is a need for a holistic review of the various, because where you take all kinds of tactical units, special units, there are almost a dozen of them within the police, for example. I will hope that in creating this SIS, and Kabir said about organized crime, and I think that's very important. I think it's to bring them together and see what role they play. Many of these units may need to go that exist at present or be absorbed by the new SIS. So we may actually look at the police in terms of our challenges now, in terms of what might call regular street policing. Then you need some specialized economic-related policing. Then you need, of course, a rapid intervention force that can rapidly intervene and bring some communal conflict under control. And finally, you may have one that should serve the kinds of role that mobile police was supposed to serve in the sense of being counter-insurgency, policing responsibility. And I think if you have about 5 or these kind of pillars strategically directed at different challenges within society, it will be very helpful. But I think this piecemeal creation creates a problem, and it creates problem of oversight. It creates problem about how they fit into the regular policing structure, organizational structure that we have on the ground. You know, part of the challenge of SARS was that, and even tactical units, some of the tactical units, they leave Abuja, probably commanded by a sergeant, go to the state, won't report to the commissioner of police, go directly to the community where they have operation, and they return to Abuja. And I think that was the reason that abuse took place in some cases. So I think the police should have learned its lesson with respect to some of the recent experiences, and not just throw these units and then see without proper coordination within the system. Yes, abuse can happen, but we cannot allow the fear of abuse also deprive us of the need for a kind of policing architecture that is required in modern day.
Okay, Prof, I'd like to talk about the selection and deployment of, members of this new squad. I'm thinking that when the, former members of SARS, when it was disbanded, members of that unit, went back to the pool, or probably were, deployed here and there, but a lot of them still remain in the pool. So will this new squad be selected from the pool of these mobile police officers, who also have been exposed to, certain behavioral traits? That's one. And two, how does the IGP hope to probably de-radicalize these, members and, make them understand or have a better understanding of the new strategy, of the new thinking, of the new vision of, the IGP's vision of policing now?
Yeah, I think you are focusing on the people who were in those units. My concern is that those units will not have behaved the way they behaved if the police as an organization had an appropriate structure for selection, appropriate structure for training and the required skill that they need, and appropriate structure for deployment and oversight. I think it's the lack of these templates that gave them, some of them, the opportunity to run amok. So I think the police leadership need to go back and ensure that they do not just throw these people out. They need very serious conception of what it's supposed to do, what skills are required for doing it, what orientation are compatible with it, and then how they will be structured at the national, at the state, at the divisional level, and what kinds of oversight structure will be available to monitor their performance, and what kind of oversight also to monitor their conduct. I think it's more or less of a strategic design of those that I think is important, which we do not often do, and we just create them, bring people together, mobilize. Really, people are just mobilized. They are not taken through all kinds of needed training before they get into that, and that is what we lost with respect to mobile police of the 70s, 60s, 70s, and probably part of the 80s. Simply learning from the way mobile police were deployed, were trained in the 60s, 70s. I think if they're finding something like this, they need to go through some of the experiences of those periods that made mobile police discipline. They were not people you see on day-to-day basis that have contact with citizens, except for the purposes for which they were established. So I do hope that SIS will not become a patrol unit, but rather will be a tactical unit that is deployed for specific purposes.
I ask this question because, of the saying that no matter how much you try to tame a leopard, it will hardly change its sport. And some of these men are, mobile police officers whose psyche have been conditioned to a particular, system, a particular, behavioral habit. And then you go back to the pool, you bring out this pool again, you join them and you put them out again in the streets. I mean, I see, I don't know, I don't want to be pessimistic, but that's just my line of thought. What do you think?
I think Kabiri is there. Usually, there are many things you do. For, internally, there is what you call vetting. You can actually subject all the officers that are likely to be mobilized to vetting. And that vetting in this context means, have they been associated with serious human rights abuse in the past? Serious misconduct that will be incompatible with the objective of that unit. And if they do, they won't be able to serve there. So that's why I said the whole process, thinking through about what the unit is supposed to do, what kind of skills and attitude and orientation will be required for an officer to perform there, and then designing some kind of template for screening officers who will be deployed there. Then, of course, reinforce those attribute disposition with appropriate training. And then, of course, the deployment. You could do all this and things can still go bad in the field. And the only option which of course is always useful, is to make sure that while you have deployed, you are also monitoring, appropriate supervising, and recording so that you can deal with abuse. I don't think if they do this, I don't think we need to have any fear.
Professor Lemika, thank you very much. Now back to Dr. Kabir Adamu. I was going to ask this question from our correspondent to give us a sense of who else is at the retreat. But we've asked Professor Lemika a number of questions, and that's why it's only useful that we come back to the studios. But yes, the broader focus of the retreat is on the significance of policing. That is to say, looking at the consequences of effective and efficient policing. But we do know that policing now in our country encompasses the 20-something odd agencies that you always talk about. So the police force is not just a silo. So therefore the idea would be, would the police be at this retreat come away with, this is what we, the police, should, can, and will do. And then in terms of operations, while you're on the field, you get confronted with other legal entities that are critical to policing. So that's why I said, take it from there, and probably Professor Lemika will also advise, just beyond being present and then giving goodwill messages. I think it might have been useful to get one or two others, or to get some talk about interagency cooperation and collaboration.
Interestingly, at least from what I could see from a distance, earlier when I spoke about international presence, Interpol was present, and at the highest level. He did deliver, like you indicated, a goodwill message. Earlier on, I spoke about something else that was dominating the social media space. A beautiful officer who attempted to rendition.
It was stage fright.
I hope so. Now, apart from the Interpol, the Office of the National Security Advisor was there. The service chiefs were represented, the military, and then several other paramilitary organizations were there. But I think the worry for a lot of us, and I'm very happy Professor repeatedly mentioned the issue of M&E, monitoring and evaluation. You cannot achieve the 3 C's of a good security architecture, coordination, collaboration, and cooperation, just by having a strategic meeting like the one we saw. There have to be tools and instruments for achieving these 3 C's of security. The simple requirement for policing is to have a stable environment that allows you and I to feel safe. It's as simple as that. Now, what the police can do, especially in an environment where the general narrative is that they are short-staffed, even though I honestly don't agree with that, is to enhance these 3 C's. If you bring all the other agencies together at that strategic level, then at the operational level, to ensure that they see each other as achieving the same objectives, then I think we would have a chance at that. And I was happy to note that both the Honorable Minister of State for Police Affairs and, Honorable Minister for Police Affairs and the Minister of State for Police Affairs were also at that event. I don't think there is any other platform or structure of government that has the capacity to achieve these 3 C's in a seamless manner like these 2 persons, the Honorable Minister and the Minister of State. Because at that strategic level, given the political influence that they have, they are able to reach out. The role of the Ministry of Interior, I was a little bit uncomfortable. I don't think I saw the Ministry of Interior at that retreat. If they were, then perhaps they were not given the prominence that is up. The Ministry of Interior and Minister of Police Affairs, they need to shake hands. And beyond just shaking hands for the sake of shaking hands, they need to shake hands to come up with a strategic direction that allows for the achievement of an improved policing like the government wants. I have in the past advocated for perhaps a merging of these 2 ministries. It's not going to happen because it is what it is at the moment. But for them to operate, they need to continuously shake hands, continuously review their direction, and continuously agree that they are working towards the same purpose. A lot of the agencies in government that have policing mandate are in the Ministry of Interior. The other agency that I also hope to hear, and the person heading that office is a stellar gentleman, and that is the Police Service Commission. They are the ombudsman for the police. A lot of these misdemeanors and other things that happen that are not corrected within the policing system are to be corrected by the Police Service Commission. So instead of being reactive, I'm actually advocating for them to come up with proactive measures, including looking at the curriculum of all the levels of policing, to make sure that at least the police at all levels are taught the several principles that you and I desire for a good policing method. I know after SARS was disbanded, there was an attempt to debrief them. There was an attempt to evaluate their performances. Now, the feelers I got, even though this needs to be corroborated, was that the report was so scandalous that it could not be released. Now, if that is the reality, it would be a shame if any member of that disbanded SARS finds himself or herself within this SIS system. So it's absolutely important that I think for the sake of the acting IGP and for the sake of policing as we know it, that measures like what Professor mentioned are taken into consideration so that we don't have persons who would be a disgrace to us, who would actually not help policing find themselves into this new unit, or in fact within the policing system itself. So what am I trying to say? The police should have the mechanism for self-correction even before any other agency. But where that fails, then the PSC, which has that responsibility, should step in. And again, I want to emphasize that it should be looking ahead and not necessarily reactive. They should not wait until these misconducts are committed and they are reported. Look into policing structures, look into administrative mechanisms, look into the training curriculum and several other components. Vetting, as an example that Professor mentioned, I cannot recall when last vetting was conducted within the police, both for pre-employment purposes and then even within the employment. Some people have advocated that perhaps this is one area that if this current IG would want to see real improvement, that he needs to look into at the moment. So a lot of work, and I hear you for that level of collaboration that we all aspire to happen. It cannot just be at the level of the retreat. There has to be other avenues where all sides involved in policing would have to shake hands and work together.
Okay, Dr. Damu, beyond you know, the establishment of the Special Intervention Force, you know, to tackle, you know, robbery and other criminal cases. The issue, forthcoming elections in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo. These are very, you know, at least states identified as flashpoints, especially during elections, are also very important. We did not hear the IGP, you know, in his statement, talk about strategy, you know, to also address, you know, pre- and post-election violence, killings, and burnings, and all that. Now, do you think that's a gap?
I'm aware that there are other forums where such conversations have been had and will be had. The Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security is still active. INEC, if I'm right, within the coming days, probably even today or tomorrow, convene that consultative committee where the IG, if I'm right, is either an acting chair or at least a high-level member of that committee. He's also issued statements in the past to, you know, directive, as it were, to the police hierarchy on the direction.
You talked about being proactive. You know, having this as part of issues to you know, yes,
convert the strategy.
Yes, not when the elections are.
So there is a gap there, actually.
Yes.
I know that INEC has conducted the Election Violence Mitigation, FMAT, which they would release probably, again, like I said, either today or in the coming days. Now, it would have been really important if the result of that FMAT for the 3 states, because what the FMAT did is to identify threats evaluate those threats and then put in place mitigation measures. And who else is better to implement those mitigation measures than the police? So it would have been a very good opportunity for those 3 reports, for Bayelsa, for Kogi, and for Imo, to have been presented at that strategy meeting, because it's a gathering of ever. But then remember that it's just three states. So perhaps when INEC releases it, it will be very easy to send that to the various commissioners. There are other NGOs too. As an example, Kimpact, which is a very active NGO that does election risk management. I know they are releasing their report either on the weekend or within this week in Akwa Ibom, and they are going to invite the commissioners of police from these 3 states. So I'm not in doubt that the police will have access to a reasonable information that would allow them to know where those threats exist within those states, and then to attempt to address those threats. But it would have probably been better if it had been done at this retreat.
Okay, Dr. Kabir, thank you very much. Professor Alemika, well, I'm sure this could be a subject matter for much deeper conversation. But I want to raise it with you because it doesn't appear to be one of the items that you indicated would engage the attention of the top brass of the police now gathered in Owerri. And that has to do with one element of welfare, police accommodation, and therefore the derelict state of police barracks in most parts of the country. I read a story lately, and I thought that was pretty challenging to the police authorities, that there was a contemplation, at least in some quarters or some brainwave, to auction off police barracks. We've not heard of any attempt to auction the barracks of the military. What is the issue with just getting safe, decent accommodation, official accommodation, in this case by way of barracks, for policemen, so that they have the decency from home, and when they're on the street, they also treat citizens with courtesy?
Yes, there is, like I said, among the topics, there are about 2 topics that deal with welfare of the police. They're talking of scheme of service. They're also talking about pension. But I mean, accommodation while in service and out of service, quite important. And yesterday they started the syndicate group, and I know in one of them, we're having a discussion, and I said, look, if you're developing a scheme of service or the rest of it, you really need to look at the whole process from the point of entry to the point of exit. That if people are assured that during their service, they are going to retire into a 2-bedroom, decent accommodation somewhere, either in terms of retirement, share retirement estate with civilians or something, they probably will be motivated. But you see, in terms of the idea of auctioning barracks, I think is outrageous. Unfortunately, apparently, some have been actually auctioned in the past. I was talking to somebody, again, I've not verified, that the DIG quarters in along Ghana Street, they are no longer police property now. And that was where they used to be accommodated with the police property. So whoever brought the idea, I wasn't going to help the police. But in terms of the quality of the barracks, I think it's a shared responsibility between the police and individual officers. That is not just the police. Anytime you find a public housing, they're usually poorly maintained. Take my own universities, and you go there, and you find people allow grass to enter literally their room, just because there is no provision for the university to cut around. And I always tell them, I say, look, as long as you live in this house.
Sorry, Professor Tanibi, we've actually run out of time. We'd like to really appreciate you. The points that you've raised have been quite fundamental, and we'd just like to appreciate you, Professor Tanibi Alemeka, Professor of Criminology, and he joined us via Zoom from Owerri. Prof, thank you very much, and we hope to get some more from you at the end of the conference.
Thank you.
Let's also appreciate Dr. Kabiru Adamu, Security and Risk Management Expert here in the studio. Dr. Adamu, always a pleasure to have your perspectives.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much.
All right, let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about leadership and digital training.
Our commitment to the values, the creed of dedication, patriotism, and commitment to the value of this country, it is extremely important that we have a change of mindset for the sake of our country. Not for us, but for our children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren, the inheritors of tomorrow.
All right, welcome back. And our next conversation will be on leadership and digital literacy training. Kingsley.
Well, of course, it's obvious that Nigerian youth are today facing a number of challenges, including unemployment. Now, this is prompting concerned organizations to develop programs to harness the skill and potential of the youth to enable them contribute more meaningfully to society.
And of course, leadership and digital literacy training slated for this Thursday is one of such initiatives. Now, the gesture by Solomon Lar Foundation seeks to mentor young persons through leadership and digital skills.
So, joining us in the studios now to talk more about the mentoring of young persons for nation building is Honorable Benny Lar. She's of the Solomon and Mary Lar Foundation.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. So just tell us a bit about this leadership and digital skills training.
Yes, thank you. Well, Nigeria is a country that's blessed with a young population. A lot of countries in Europe don't even have this advantage. And we have a population, a massive, huge population of about well over 100, about 106. Our population right now is about 200 million. And it's believed that, of course, about 60 to 70% of that population are young people. And so that puts us in a situation where the foundation, which was founded by the visionary, Professor Mary Lar, who's a woman, she's 88 years old, and she called the members of the foundation and said, what are we going to do to help the Nigerian youth? We shouldn't just sit back. There should be intergenerational transfer of knowledge, experiences, and of course, skills. So let's build up their leadership skills and digital training. Because as you know, today's world, entrepreneurship and definitely technology entrepreneurship is not only encouraged, but is the way of the future. So we want the young people to discover themselves, to say, look, they have to build up confidence, to say we can change this country and build the Nigeria of our dreams. We want them to believe in Nigeria. We want them to change the way things are done in Nigeria. And we also want them to bring in new ideas and innovations that will help them. And while doing that, we're providing the digital skills training. We're partnering with organizations such as Galaxy and some organizations that will actually provide them with skills starting from that day. They will link them up even on certain sites for free and train them for a few weeks after that and give them certifications like Cisco certifications, encourage them to know how to use technology to better society and of course their lives as well.
So who is being targeted amongst the youth category?
Well, the 18 to 30-year-olds, students, young graduates, the unemployed and the employed. Young Nigerian youth do not have to be unemployed. They can create their own employment, and we want to show them that if you're not employed and you don't have anything to do, we encourage you also to come, and because we'll teach you, there must be a skill that you have. How can you use this skill, whether it's in arts, in culture, in science, in innovation, link you up with the relevant organizations that can help develop your skill. For instance, we have Nigerian innovators, we see them all the time, the Young Scientist Program. We know the Ministry of Science and Technology does that. We encourage young scientists to grow with innovations. I love to watch some videos that show young people even inventing drones on their own, you know, those little skills that they can learn on their own. And then, of course, everybody in Nigeria, every young person has a passion, whether it's, you know, in music, in arts, in sports, or in entrepreneurship. You know, you have something. So we want to develop that. And of course, computer science, engineering, that's the way of the future. So we have also taken it upon ourselves to mentor the young people. There will be examples of young people who have made it, and they will be there that day to tell them how they made it, and then all the necessary information will be provided for them. But this is just the beginning of what we intend to do to promote youth leadership development in Nigeria.
I was just wondering if you have specific aspect of the digital world, because it's such, you know, a very vast ecospace, right. So that you intend to focus on. I mean, you know, the young generation, you know, are so vast. Right. So are you just opening this training for all aspects of, you know, digital ecosystem, or is there a specific aspect of it that you are taking up?
Well, right now we're going to do the general aspects of it, and then, like I said, some will be awarded Cisco certification after a couple of weeks. We're registering them on different platforms in conjunction with NIDA. I will not give you the details. I think NIDA, Galaxy, and the other organizations we're partnering with will be able to provide those details more.
Where and when will the training take place?
The training is taking place on Thursday, 10 o'clock.
Which Thursday?
At the November 2nd, at NAV Center in Kado.
Kado here in Abuja.
Yes, Kado here in Abuja. You know, the NAV Center, the Air Force Center.
You know, because we are a network program. Yeah, somebody might be watching this in Katsina.
Oh, yeah.
And there's probably Kado in Katsina. I'm not sure if there is, but some other location. Oh, you say, oh, that's the Kado. The person goes there and he finds an empty space.
Is it an open invitation?
Yes, it's an open invitation, but the participants, you can register when you get there, or you can register beforehand. We have a lot of people who've registered online already.
So it's a one-day program. Is it an induction? Is it an introduction? Is it an intensive coaching program? What is it?
Yes. Well, first we're starting with leadership. As you know, we lack leadership, good leadership in Nigeria. What makes a good leader? My late father, Chief Solomala, was termed to be one of the great leaders of this nation. And what were the characteristics he imbibed? Number one, he listened to people. The ability to carry everybody along, to say that way. He included everyone, diversity, inclusion, and people around him were touched by his lifestyle. Simple, caring, compassionate, generous. And also he believed in education. And so that's why we're trying to take an aspect of what we believe will be the most important part of a young person's education right now, which is digital skills and leadership, because every young person is a leader. You have the capacity to lead, let me put it that way. You don't necessarily have to hold a big government office or political office. We want the young people to move away from thinking like that, but we want them to think, what skill do I have? For instance, you could even want to, you know, say I want to be a computer scientist, I want to do something new, or I even just want to be a mechanic, but let me innovate new ways to do this. You know, it doesn't have to be anything sophisticated, but how do you excel and how do you contribute to society in such a way that you bring ideas that make our society better? When young people organize themselves and advocate, it is, you know, you see that there's change in a society. But when young people, there's no strategic development program for their physical, their educational needs. You see, young people leaving the country And that aspect of young people leaving the country, the so-called Japa syndrome, isn't very good. And that's why we want Nigerians to, you know, believe in their country and say, look, I can do this, you can do this, you can do this, and together.
Honorable Benny, let me leap in here. I mean, without prejudice to the focus of your foundation, because you will have the objects in your registered documents. Leadership is a subset. You were just mentioning the Japa syndrome. Might a focus on citizenship training not be more accommodating of the broad issues you are just outlining now, including leadership? Because let's be realistic, everyone can't be a leader. Yes, you could have the skills, but we all cannot be leaders. We have to have followers. You have to show examples. So, might citizenship training, therefore, not be a more encompassing focus for particularly the target group that you have for this training?
Well, leadership includes citizenship. They go hand in hand. From being a citizen, one could lead. You could even lead in your family. That's, you know, but whatever responsibility you are saddled with, how should you carry out that responsibility that will make a good lasting impact? For instance, you could be yes, maybe you could be in a civil service office and you're not a director. Maybe you're just an ordinary, but there's a responsibility given to you in that office. And if you do that responsibility well, as far as that office is concerned, maybe you're a desk officer or you're, you know, you're leading even in that little unit. But, you know, you should be honest, transparency, accountability. It starts from teaching them the values and emphasizing those values, because one of the key things that's happening was shifting from our values that this country was built on. You look at the generations coming down, our children gradually are sort of shifting values, and you know, this get-rich-quick syndrome is becoming too pervasive, and everything now just revolves about how can I get money out of this. That's not how Nigeria was built. They need to also, because they say people without a history do not know their future. So we also need to teach them that Nigeria was built on the sweat and dreams of our forefathers, who believed that in our unity, in our diversity, there's unity. In our strengths, there's greatness. And this nation is great, and the young people should team up, work together, and build this nation and make it a nation of their dreams.
Leadership, of course, entails one to be selfless, and a good citizen is a selfless citizen. I think what you're trying to say is that they go hand in hand, yes. The leadership and citizenship. Right. But this is a one-day event, and I'm wondering what impact you intend to make. Then after Thursday, are you going to follow through with, you know, the trainees?
Yes, after Thursday we're following through with the trainees. That's why we have them register. The way the foundation has been doing a lot of activities over the years, I mean, during the course of 1 year. And so it's during the course of this year, we're not only following through with the certification, we're going to keep, you know, we're going to do peer review as well to know how far they've gone. And then every couple of months, we do intend to train on different campuses, school campuses. We're partnering with some higher institutions as well to train them.
Okay, just give us time and again, venue of event.
Okay, the time is 10 o'clock, November 2nd, Thursday, at the NAV Center, which is the Air Force Conference Center.
Kado
Abuja.
In Abuja.
Yes.
All right. Honorable Benny La of the Solomon and Mary La Foundation, thank you for coming to talk to us about your event.
Thank you. Thank you.
We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, of course, that's talking about leadership and digital literacy training organized by the Benny Solomon La Foundation. It will come up on Thursday, of course, at the NAV Center, Kadu, here, Abuja. All right, Kingsley.
All right, so that's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria today. Thank you, of course, for being with us. The program will be back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. And it's been a long while. Of course, I want to thank you all for having been with us. Good Morning Nigeria began on the 2nd of June, 2020. 14. That's we're into our 10th year, but not exactly 10 years. We did 9 sometime in June this year.
Kingsley, don't take it away. Don't take it away. Don't take it away. Keep it there. Keep it there. All right. Let me take it from here. And I think I'd just like to say, and that's how it has been. Remembering one of the famous presenters in, of course, US. And so it is with great privilege, honor, and of course emotion that I say this, that Kingsley will be, of course, has presented his last Good Morning Nigeria today. It is an honor for me to also sign him off. For the past 9, almost 10 years, we've been together. We started this program together as pioneer presenters, and it is my honor and, of course, privilege to also sign him out. He has been called to take a higher national assignment, and on behalf of the NTA management, the GMN crew, the co-anchors, Jume, Kirian, Imre, and of course Ademola.
More than a dozen.
More than a dozen people, and of course all the fans out there. Kingsley will say, we will miss you. I've been privileged. I've learned a lot from you, and I don't know. I'm just fighting not to tear. We'll say thank you, Kingsley.
Thank you very much, Claire.
Can I have a hug?
Thank you. And of course, big thanks to all our colleagues. Most of them, of course, are behind the camera. You don't see them. The producers over the years, the co-presenters, the general managers, the executive director of news, those in charge of marketing, and of course the DJs, beginning with Shola Mole in 2014, Yakubu Ibn Mohammed, and now Abdulhamid Dembos. Thank you very much, of course, to our viewers, many of them whose words of encouragement have kept us going.
I will miss your very rare smiles, Kingsley. All right, that's it on Good Morning Nigeria for today. We'll be back same tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you.